How is it going, everyone? We are less than a day away from kickoff for the first college football game of the 2025 season. My name is Stone Stockman. This is the Undercenter College Football Show. Glad to have you here. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell everyone to join, because today we have three huge topics we're going to be getting into right before kickoff. For week 0, we're going to see some of the best football, some of the only football we've seen in so long. So make sure to strap in your seatbelt, grab some popcorn, and let us begin. Today, our three topics that we're going to talk about are our conference championship winners. We talked about it a little bit whenever we went over the playoffs, so you should understand where I am at with mine. But just to get into a little bit more detail about that, afterwards we'll be talking about our Heisman predictions, and then finally at the very end, we will be talking about our week 0 predictions. So let's get right into it with our conference championship winners. Glad to have you all here with us today. So I'll be sharing my conference championship winners. It should be coming up on the screen in just a second. Awesome. All right. So if this should be working right, you will see my conference championship winners. We will start going from top to bottom. So I have my national championship winner, Clemson, facing off against Georgia Tech in the ACC championship. I've spoken in the past about how high I am on Georgia Tech. Being high on Clemson is kind of a no-brainer. I feel like everyone should probably have Clemson winning the ACC in their predictions, because, I mean, it's Dabo Swinney. It's always a safe pick, and there's not really like a huge battle for the top of the tier in the ACC. With that being said, I do think Georgia Tech is a great team, and I expect a lot from them this year. Having them in the conference championship, for me, I have them probably sitting at a good 10-2, maybe even 11-1, with a loss to Clemson in the regular season and then a loss to them in the conference championship. But that should still punch them a ticket to make it into the college football playoff, which I have them in my prediction. So I just see a lot for Clemson. I think that Dabo, he's kind of set up for this year, and they attack the portal, get some receivers for Cade Klubnik. And like Cade Klubnik, he played great last season. 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is like Heisman level play with no real big like threats at the receiver position. Now they have real threats, and they still have a great, defensive line returning. They have everything they need returning. I expect to see a lot from them. Georgia Tech, I expect to see a lot from as well. But it's kind of, Clemson is almost in a tier 1 by themselves in the ACC. And then I'd go like tier 2, you get the Georgia Techs, the Miamis. You could argue SMU, just a few scattered teams, maybe Louisville, maybe even a Pitt. So, but Clemson is kind of in a tier of their own, and I mean, until someone can really take that from them, which it hasn't really been taken in a while. I guess FSU won a couple years ago, but I mean, FSU, no one, I don't think anyone's predicting them to be in the ACC championship predictions. But I mean, if Clemson can just take care of business, and I think they should, I think this is kind of an easy bet. They should get a high seed in the playoffs. Well, we'll go into our Big Ten. For me, I have Penn State as my winner. I have them beating Ohio State. So in the regular season, I think Ohio State pulls it off again. And it's almost like, well, James Franklin, he's not very used to winning the big games. We all know that. We could talk about that forever. But there's something different about this team. It's like Penn State has been leading up to this year. If James Franklin cannot get it done this season, then he maybe a hot seat conversation. Although I just don't know who else they would be able to plug in that would be very successful. But with that being said, I think that Penn State's good. I think that they're due for finally getting it done. I think they're like the team in the Big Ten this year, and that everyone else kind of has to look at them, like that's the team to beat. But the thing is, I don't think anyone is going to look at them like that, because they've never been that way. And when they should have, they weren't. They were always losing. So I don't know. I've got a feeling that they're going to be able to pull it off. I think Ohio State beats them in the regular season, and then they come in, Big Ten championship game, get their get back, win, and then they get a high seed in the playoffs. Move on, Big 12 championship game. I have Kansas State versus Arizona State. Now here's the thing. I've spoken in the last couple episodes about how the Big 12 is wide open. You could throw basically any of the top half teams when it comes to their odds to win the Big 12 and throw them on a graphic like this, and, I mean, there wouldn't be much to argue. I like Kansas State. I've spoken in the past. I like Avery Johnson. I think that they have an opportunity to kind of redeem last year, I guess, because they've always been one of the more dominant teams in the Big 12. But last year, it just didn't really feel like Kansas State was having like a huge presence when it came to the potential, Big 12 championships. There was a lot of Arizona State. Obviously, they had won it. Iowa State, of course, they played in it. BYU was in the conversation a lot. And even like a little bit of Colorado, even though Colorado is still on and off about kind of stuff. But Kansas State, people kind of, I won't say forgot about them, but they just weren't really in like a huge topic of conversation last season towards like the third quarter of the season. And I think that this is their year to come in and get the job done. Although I do really like Arizona State. I think, again, you could throw just about any two teams on this graphic, and it would probably make sense somewhere. But I think this is a close game. It could go any way. You never know. But, yeah, that's my Big 12 prediction. Moving on, SEC prediction, I have the Alabama Crimson Tide beating the Texas Longhorns in Atlanta. I think this year is kind of a year for Kalen DeBoer where, he's entering his second year. Everyone knows that he's super successful in his second year. And he's got the roster. Even with Ty Simpson, new quarterback, as long as he can perform at a level where he isn't going to be making a lot of mistakes. He doesn't need to be having Jalen Morrow last season. He had high highs, but he had low lows, like bad. As long as, Ty Simpson, he doesn't even have to have the high highs. As long as he doesn't make really bad decisions and can actually push the ball down the field, he's got the weapons around him to make him successful. So I expect a lot from the Alabama Crimson Tide this season. I think that they're going to go in. I think they win the SEC championship game, and because a lot of people have been talking down on them, and it's almost, like they're just itching at the bit to regain that dominant spot as the SEC champion. And Texas, on the other hand, Texas is great. My co-host Chandler has Texas winning the national championship, but he also has them losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game. So we both see that Texas has a lot of potential to be fantastic, and I think that they are going to be fantastic. I think that Steve Sarkisian is one of the best coaches in college football, and that, especially offensively. But not only that, he's also one of the best recruiters and one of the best, most personable coaches, when it comes to player and coach relations. I think that he gets along with his players and that he puts them in good positions so that they can look to him as a leader and truly trust in his word, not just as a coach to player situation, but almost as if a friend way where it's I can promise you what's best for you, and his players will stick to it. It's just young. I don't know. I'm just Steve Sarkisian. There's not a lot of questions. Maybe in their DB room. I just think that Alabama has more depth, and that throughout the season, both teams' SEC schedule is going to be difficult, but when they're getting beat on, Alabama has more wiggle room when it comes to how far in the depth chart can they go and still be really successful. And not that Texas doesn't have much depth, but it's just not to the level of Alabama's depth. And for that reason, I don't have them winning it. But yeah, so these are my conference championship winners. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd gladly talk to anyone about this. I love college football. I'll talk to everyone about it. But yeah, this is how I feel. This is how confident I am. And you guys just go throw your betting money on this because you guys will win a lot. So yeah. So we will move on to the next part of our show. Right now, we are going to talk Heisman. So right now we're talking about our Heisman predictions, my Heisman predictions, as a matter of fact. We're going to go right into sharing that graphic real quick. All right, and as you can see, here is my Heisman prediction. It is on the screen. Everyone, feast your eyes. We've got Cade Klubnik taking home the Heisman. Not only that, if you watch the playoff prediction, taking home a national championship as well. I look at Cade Klubnik, and I see Baker Mayfield from his Heisman year. I mean, they had practically the same numbers last season, and he didn't have anyone to throw to. Cade Klubnik, he now has weapons, and he has a roster, probably the most loaded roster Clemson has had since Trevor Lawrence. So he's put in such a great position, surrounded by so much talent, that I expect him to, well, for one, obviously play better than last season. Not that he played poorly, but just improve on a year-to-year basis. But I believe that he's going to excel, and there's not going to be like a crazy amount of separation out of the Heisman winner and the runner-ups, but he's going to put himself into a position where it's not going to be a big question of like who's really going to win it. It's not going to be like a big battle where you have all 5 of these guys and they're all pretty equally competitive for the Heisman, and it comes down to a couple votes. I think that he will indefinitely win, I guess, but it's not going to be like Joe Burrow a win, although it could be. I mean, who knows? Cade Klubnik might come in and be like the best quarterback we've ever seen. So he's my winner. Runner-ups, Jeremiah Smith, of course, entering his second season, absolute freak athlete, potentially one of the best players in college, or he is one of the best players in college football, potentially the best player in college football. I just don't know if he could win or pull off a Heisman in his second season. We're still yet to see the Julian Sayin, how well he's going to be doing, and just how well the Ohio State offense is going to be doing, because they lost a lot of pieces into the draft. Clemson, on the other hand, they have number 1 returning production. So it's not me doubting Jeremiah Smith's ability. It's just, is he surrounded by enough talent that's going to complement his game in order for him to really come on top as a Heisman? Not that he's not going to be successful, but it's just that's kind of the difference I see here. Garrett Nussmeier, I also have. He's the only returning quarterback in college football with 4,000 passing yards in the previous year. I think he's going to be great. I think that he will make it to New York. The one thing is just I don't have much trust in Brian Kelly. Their schedule is hard. I think that Heisman, at least in the past, maybe not as recently, but in the past, I would view Heisman and be like schedule matters, especially if you're a quarterback. If you can lead your team to victories, that matters. If you can play well enough to win, and I see a lot of times, not that LSU is going to be bad, but I don't have them making my playoff. I could see them dropping 3 games, and I mean if LSU is going to drop 3 games, although I know Jaden Daniels, he won a Heisman and they didn't make the playoffs. They weren't the most perfect team, but his defense wasn't that great. I think their defense is going to be good, but it's just a lot of there are high expectations on Garrett Nussmeier, and his defense is better than Jaden Daniels' defense, so he's not going to have as much wiggle room. Not that Jaden Daniels didn't perform well when he won the Heisman, but it's just there's going to be a lot expected, and if he doesn't hit on all cylinders, it's just going to be really difficult. So that's why I have him at third. Then Lenore Sellers, I'm super high on. I love this guy. I could see him pulling off the Heisman if necessary, but I think he is one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the nation, especially with his legs. And it's just the thing about Lenore Sellers is his supporting cast. I mean, if you look at all these teams, you start to separate towards the bottom. Who's he throwing to besides Nick Harbor? Can we trust his offensive line? Can we trust his defense to help put them in positions to where they can perform really well? I think Lenore Sellers is going to play fantastic next season. I mean, I have them making the Heisman, final list, but it's just hard for me to see him excel at the level that those around him will when he's not surrounded by, I guess, the best supporting cast. And finally, John Mateer. John Mateer coming from Washington State, going to Oklahoma. He's got Arbuckle came with him, his offensive coordinator, so they have a great connection. I expect Oklahoma to play really, really, really well this year. I think it's going to be a bounce back year. I don't have them making the playoffs, but I think John Mateer, he is such a good quarterback. I mean, he ran for borderline 1,000 yards last year at Washington State, and I'm not worried about his throwing intangibles. I think he's going to be great. I guess I'm worried about his receiving core. I don't see there being any guys that are going to really step up into a position that is going to be like this. This is like an Oklahoma, like a CeeDee Lamb receiver. I don't see there being a big conversation of like, man, John Mateer, like him and this receiver, they're such a great duo, you know? If he elevates himself to a level where he could win the Heisman, it's going to be a lot of John Mateer, he's magic. Like he's pulling this off like almost by himself. And I mean, no discredit to Oklahoma and their receiving core or their offensive line or their running back core. It's just, it's you know, this whole prediction has a lot to do with what I see in the depth. And also, I mean, I do just think Cade Klubnik is the best player. I think that he's going to separate himself and be potentially the best player in college football. So that's kind of what I see. I think that if I was doing more of like a prediction of what I think is going to happen with like New York, you would expect to see Arch Manning on this list. I just think that everyone is so high on Arch Manning. They think he's like the savior. Not that he's going to play poorly. I don't think he's going to play poorly at all, but it's his first season as a starting quarterback, SEC schedule. He could separate himself and be an absolute menace and win the Heisman, but I do think that just because of how, I don't know, I guess the media views it, he's probably going to make it to New York, even if he doesn't win it. But again, here's my Heisman prediction. Cade Klubnik, the winner of the Heisman. Not only that, but also the national championship and probably like number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Again, super high on all of these guys, and I expect all of them to perform, and I hope all of them succeed at the level they're at. But yeah, so Heisman predictions. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You guys, I'm so glad to have you here watching this episode. We're trying to get on our feet as a program, so this means a lot. There's only a little bit that I have left to share with you. We are going to get into our Week 0 predictions. So if you're watching, again, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you send this to everyone you love, because if you love them, then they must love football. And if they don't love football, then you might have to reevaluate your relationships, because what else do you have to love? I'm just joking. But make sure you do send this to them so then they can gain a greater love for football. But yeah, let's go into our Week 0 predictions, you guys. College football starts tomorrow. Maybe when you're seeing this, college football has already started. Maybe you're seeing this post games. You're going to check to see if I was right, although I know I'm going to be right. I have no doubt in my mind about my predictions in the slightest. So here are my Week 0 predictions. You are seeing it right here, ladies and gentlemen. The Week 0 predictions. We have got Kansas State versus Iowa State, Farmageddon in Dublin, Ireland. I have Kansas State. They are my winner in the Big 12. I think the winner of this game will probably not. Well, I think they will make it to the Big 12 championship game. Although I could see Arizona State potentially beating Iowa State if they play together. But Iowa State, they could win it. I'm super high on both of these guys. I think Rocco Becht is one of the better quarterbacks in the nation, that he could, not that he didn't make a name for himself last season, but he could kind of separate himself and put him into more one of those conversations of, is this guy, is he one of the, like, is he going to be the best quarterback in the Big 12? And then entering his following year, I think that he will be more of a, I guess, nationally known name. But yeah, I've got Kansas State, Iowa State. So excited for that game. It is 12 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. for me. So wake up, watch some football. Gosh, doesn't get much better than that. Move on. UNLV versus Idaho State. Again, I have UNLV as my Group of 5 rep. I expect them to win. I mean, if they don't win, then I'm going to start having to reevaluate my entire playoff prediction. Maybe not my entire playoff prediction, but maybe just the group of 5 part. But they should win. I think the line for them is it's a 25-point differential. That's kind of expected for them. So it's UNLV minus 25 against Idaho State. I think if they don't win, then that would be shocking. I expect a lot out of Dan Mullins. We'll move on. Kansas versus Fresno State. I do like Fresno State, but I think Kansas is going to have a far better year than they had last season. Jalen Daniels got hurt last season, and he was out for a while, and then they couldn't catch up. They lost way too many games early in the year, and then he came back, and he started ruining people's seasons, keeping them out of playoff potential. And I expect him as healthy. I think that they could make a big presence in the Big 12. I mean, there's a chance that they could be playing in the Big 12 championship game. That's how confident I am in Jalen Daniels as a quarterback, as a player. And I wholeheartedly expect them to beat Fresno State. We'll move on. Stanford versus Hawaii. This is there are a couple teams here that are, not super great. It's not like the biggest week of college football, although Kansas State and Iowa State, 2 really good teams, in my opinion. And I think Kansas could be thrown in that conversation. With that being said, Stanford and Hawaii, they are 2 of, in my opinion, 2 of the worst teams in college football. And I could see it going either way. I think it would be really cool if Hawaii pulled it off, but I do expect Stanford to go in and beat Hawaii, although I don't think they're going to be doing much else the rest of the year. So don't expect much from me in any kind of prediction form throughout the season for Stanford and Hawaii. We'll move on to WKU and Sam Houston. And I have WKU pulling it off against Sam Houston. I just think they have a better roster. There's just not a lot to go off of for these smaller teams. I'm probably not well-versed enough to talk a lot about these smaller teams, but these are my predictions. I believe I actually am predicting every single team that is favorited to win. So that might not be the most fun, but I promise it's not what it's going to look like every single week, especially with the more bigger games coming up. I will have some, more surprise picks. But, I think everyone is just really excited to watch Farmageddon, Kansas State versus Iowa State, because this has real playoff implications. Whoever wins, I think, could land a playoff spot. I expect Kansas State to win, and I'm so excited for that. But those are my Week 0 predictions. Everyone, thank you for sticking around and watching this awesome episode with me today. I am more than excited. I'm enthralled for what tomorrow brings. And I know that you guys are just as excited if you're watching this. Then you must be just itching at the bit to get to college football. I know I am. But again, everyone, thank you for your participation in this wonderful, wonderful off-season journey with the channel. This is only our 4th episode, but we expect to get episodes out more regularly throughout the season. But yeah, again, thank you guys for watching. This has been a pleasure, and I'm just so excited for tomorrow. One more sleep, and college football is back. Everyone, get ready. I don't even know if I'm ready. My heart is beating faster than anything else in the entire world right now. But yeah, again, thanks for watching. You guys stay safe, and see you next time.